Hey everybody, it's Derek here. We're going to take a look at the news from the 18th to the 24th of October 2021. So again, not a huge amount, or not a leading story we can go with, I suppose. So we're just going to jump straight into new releases. So first up, as it's approaching Halloween, we have a new entry in the Dark Pictures anthology. This will be House of Ashes, which is set sometime in the latest war in the Middle East. And some characters, maybe you want them to die. You're like, fuck you. I'm not going to perform this quick time event. Instead, I'm going to let you die because I do not like you. Which I may or may not have done in a couple of other things. If you want to see more about it, or more from this developer, Supermassive, I did a Let's Play of Until Dawn, which is somewhere on the channel. You can go have a look for it. Pretty good. You check it out. Elsewhere, we have Gloomhaven, which is launching on PC. It's finally come out of early access, so it has been in early access for a good while. Gloomhaven is a digital version of the tabletop game. It is a kind of tactical combat thing, so it's like rolling dice and, you know, seeing what happens kind of thing. A bit like D&D if it was just the combat parts, basically, of D&D. So not really any role-playing or exploration or social stuff. It's just straight up the combat parts. And this is a very cinematic trailer. It doesn't really show you how the game works. It's a turn-based thing. Your characters occupying separate tiles. You have a card deck to choose from, which is your moves in the game, your abilities and stuff like that. You can use cards to actually perform the ability, or you can use them secondarily to move or perform something else. It's very tough from what I've seen. I don't typically play games when they're in early access. I wait for them to come out properly. So this is the 1.0 release. I'll be interested to give it a shot because I like D&D and I like the combat part of D&D. And since Baldur's Gate 3 is still in early access, this is probably about as close as I'll get to it from a gameplay standpoint. So those were our new releases. The wrong button. Announcements. So Concerned Ape, Eric Barone, you may know as the developer of Stardew Valley, has announced what his next game will be, and it is The Haunted Chocolatier. You can watch a trailer for it while I talk about it a little bit, but there's not a whole lot to say about it other than what's in the trailer. It still very much has the Stardew Valley aesthetic of a nice village with some interesting characters that you'll probably grow to know and maybe love at some point during the game. But you're not tending a farm this time, so you're not like growing vegetables and flowers and destroying the economy by making coffee every morning and selling it. You're making chocolate, and to do that, to get your ingredients, since you don't have a farm, you have to go off into a mysterious forest area that's being shown off here and do combat things, which is like, there was combat in Stardew Valley, but it wasn't very fleshed out. It was kind of basic, whereas it seems like it is going to be a considerable more of a focus for a Haunted Chocolatier. But that's just like one side of it. The other side of it is, you know, making sweets for people and then setting up your shop for people to buy. So you set up the shop and then lay out where, you know, you'll sell your stuff and then bring people in. You know, that's where you'll make your money, presumably. And you have ghosts, by the look of it, who actually man the shop. And then the second half of this trailer is kind of introducing a couple of characters that you'll probably be chatting with and getting to know. It seems that there'll be characters actually in the forest looking area, the fantasy area if you prefer, that you'll also get to know, so it'll be like moving back and forth between the two places. Could be cool. I mean, it probably will be, because Stardew Valley is very good. I'm kind of hoping that more of the same, more or less, from Haunted Chocolatier. Chocolatier, whatever we want to pronounce it. And other story in announcements, we have God of War will be coming to PC. So Sony is continuing to kind of trickle out its releases for PC, but at least it's continuing. So now we have Death Stranding, Days Gone, Horizon, and God of War now. So it'll be February of next year. at some point, probably in and around the same time as God of War Ragnarok, when that comes out on PlayStation 5, and then maybe give it a year or 2 or 3. It might make its way to PC as well. The God of War reboot is a very good game. Just purely from its combat perspective, whatever you want to say about the story, and whatever. I like the story, but you know, stories are subjective. Combat systems are also subjective, Eric, but whatever. I really liked it. It's very impactful, and the axe mechanic of being able to throw it and pull it back is very satisfying. And you know, having another platform for it to play on increases the number of people who can play it, but it also improves the word I want to say now, preservation, because it's on PC. And once you can get your game on PC, you're doing pretty well for keeping it preserved for the future. If you can manage to get it to run on Linux, even better. Anyway, that's what we got for announcements. But now it's time to talk about industry bullshit. I've fucking forgotten my own fucking phrase for this section. What is it? It's time to talk about the worst parts of the things we like. Oh, yeah. Fuck. Anyway, I gotta write it down or something, put a big post-it for it. Anyway, Ubisoft being shit. Big surprise. So this is a report from Kotaku, written by Ethan Gack. It's fairly lengthy, so we're just more or less just going to skim it, but the link will be in the paste bin in the description underneath if you want to check it out. Basically, it's just highlighting that Ubisoft are talking up their whole trying to address their sexual harassment, pay disparity, and just generally being a shit place to work, and they're not actually doing any of it. Big shock, I know, but you know, at least it's having it reported like from a source rather than just assuming they were being shit, because of course they were being shit. But anyway, most of this report follows a former developer named Valerie. It's not the real name, it's a pseudonym for this article, but anyway. She was sexually harassed and the victim of racist remarks. She reported the incident but says nothing was done. This was back in 2018. Then when the shit hit the fan for them and there was like a big public outcry of them to like fix their shit, she filed more complaints, and wouldn't you know it, Valerie never received a resolution for her case. Earlier this year she decided to resign. So like nothing really has changed. Valerie's story calls into question Ubisoft's stated commitment to overhauling its HR processes and workplace culture. Nobody is really shocked. The company's process for reporting issues still feels like navigating a maze to nowhere. So this is kind of highlighting that the systems they've put in place do foster kind of like anonymity. So like you can make your complaint and presumably nobody will, you know, nobody will know that it was you specifically who made the complaint. Like it'll just get pushed into the system and it can be addressed without having it come back or any blowback or something like that. But the problem with like that is that it's very easy to just dismiss it because there isn't a person attached to it, and you can't follow it up in person because it's meant to be anonymous. So yeah, while in one sense it seems like it's protecting people's privacy or, you know, preventing blowback on their career or anything like that, it also makes it very easy to just dismiss the whole thing. In the wake of the Activision Blizzard California thing, Ubisoft workers formed the group A Better Ubisoft, which was like similar to A Better Activision, A Better ABK is what it was, Activision Blizzard King, in solidarity, calling for industry-wide change to how companies deal with reports of misconduct. Ubisoft has continued to ignore their complaints. This whole report can just be surprised Pikachu face, to be honest, but like it's out there. It's another piece of data, and it's keeping it in the news cycle, I suppose, if you like, because it's very easy for people to just start ignoring this because, you know, nothing changes. But anyway, I gave witness testimony through Idoko platform directly, referencing a case that a co-worker had reported already and never heard back. No further questions, nothing. Idoko is an anonymous reporting system that was only recently added, but it seems like it is like they're just ticking a box for stuff to do rather than actually using it the way it's meant to be used. Others reported issues with discriminatory pay, abusers getting promotions, and being sworn to secrecy about their complaints, which is like a big problem. It's like a arbitration clause in that legally shut up or we'll sue you, pretty much. It's not good. Opaque process makes it hard to get any answers. So again, this is another sort of dig, I suppose, at the anonymous process of things, in that because you don't know who is making the complaint, and then you don't know who's actually reviewing it, because again, everything is anonymous. How are you ever going to get any follow-up because you don't know who to talk to about it? When asked for comment, Ubisoft said fuck off. Well, no, they didn't say fuck off, they just didn't have a comment. Fuck off, anyway. Continuing with Valerie, she signed on for Ubisoft Montreal for a big unannounced game that has since been cancelled. What that was? Beyond Good and Evil, probably. We'll find out about that later. I don't know, it's speculation. Anyway, the game's technical director asked her if she kept sex toys at her desk. Okay. And then said, "It's funny, when you smile, you look like someone eating lemon." Followed by him trying to imitate her face. And Valerie is Asian, so you can imagine what that imitation looked like. Good shit. She reported the first event to her HR representative, who responded by downplaying the chances of anything changing since the technical director in question had been at Ubisoft for decades. So he's protected. He's got tenure, if you like. They're not going to do anything about him. The technology group manager later said that the complaint would create even more problems for her, so she was encouraged to withdraw it. That's shit. In 2020, when Ubisoft started doing their overhaul asterisk, didn't fucking doing anything, but she submitted some more reports. She submitted it to an actual outside counsel that Ubisoft allegedly have brought in. I don't know, my brain never works. As soon as I press the record button, I forget half the words I know, but anyway. Since her harassment was limited to 3 incidents, a representative of the firm told her that it did not amount to sexual harassment. I'd think a single incident would, but okay. There's a bunch of other shit that happens to her here that I don't feel comfortable going into. But basically, she's being passed over for work. Her managers and directors and stuff are belittling her in public, but privately saying she's doing a good job. So it's a shitty culture of protection of the boys who were already there. So yeah, she passed over for stuff and given bad reviews like that. Pushed her into depression and anxiety. She took sick leave. Came back and again sent emails to this outside counsel alleging I don't like working here and I would like something done about it, kind of thing. Emails were never received a response. There was, however, a follow-up call, but they were told the case would not be investigated, and they didn't say why. That's the counsel not saying why, not Valerie. Valerie doesn't know why. One final attempt to alert the Ubisoft management, she sent a resignation email directly to Chief Shithead of Ubisoft, and CC'd probably a bunch of other people based on a copy. Okay, yeah, so she explained the harassment, discrimination, and so on. Big shock, Gmo did not respond. The newly appointed head of workplace culture did, and they set up some meetings and whatever, but nothing. Over a year has passed and she's received no information and has resigned in time. So this quote is actually from a different developer, but I just found it was interesting. I suddenly began to understand the response some veteran Ubisoft devs gave me when I tried to recruit them to come forward about similar issues. It was always some variation of, same thing happens every few years, I've reported X number of things with witnesses and proof, and either nothing was done or person X was promoted or moved. it's sad, and if it's an intentional way of burying this stuff, it's working. But you're having massive disillusionment at your company, and not only that, but they're losing a ton of people. Like, so many. Like, we've talked about a couple of like the higher profile people who've left, but they're losing people all over the place because of this, and it's hurting the company more than anything. Like, no, not more than anything. I'll retract that. It is hurting the people working there more than anything else, but at the same time, you must see how this is a problem. The higher ups must see this as a problem. Some more of this is about the attempts to get the company's social and economic committee, which is a sort of, it's like a pseudo union that is required in pretty much any big French company. They're required to have this sort of employee representative body, which isn't quite a union technically, but it kind of functions as like an in-house union. But they've been kept out of any of the decision-making process, which is not good because it kind of defeats the purpose of having it, and that's, you know, probably the point. But there you go. This committee is quoted by saying, by refusing to include employees in the feedback and decision-making process on harassment, Ubisoft management shows that it never had any intention to do more than communicate to save face, which is what we're seeing, really. They're just implementing a bunch of shit, releasing a press release saying that they did it, and then expecting it all to just go away. Which it would if we didn't keep having these reports. So we've got that going for you. This is a quote from Ubisoft Montreal director. As you know, your experiences and the information you have access to while working in the studio are privileged and cannot be shared outside of the studio. So this is saying stop talking to journalists. The thing is, the whole NDA thing that they're meant to sign is meant to be about your work, right? It's meant to be about the stuff you're actually working on, projects, things like that. You're not meant to talk about them. You're meant to forward that to media relations or whatever. Actual workplace like harassment and illegal shit happening, yeah, you're allowed to talk about that. Like, that NDAs do not absolve the company entirely of actual legal requirements for things. You know, the law is above any NDA you have. And in a lot of cases, NDAs aren't really worth the paper they're written on. People do keep it just so they can, you know, stay working in the industry, so they're not found to have violated an NDA, but whatever. So you do have that double-edged sword of, yeah, you can speak out, but that's the end of your career, kind of thing. Which is what all whistleblowers have to deal with. But yeah, that's just a fairly lengthy report from Kotaku about what's happening at Ubisoft, but it's more about what's not happening. And you can apply this to Riot and Activision and Paradox and a bunch of other companies that have come out to be found that they have all of these problems, and it's, you know, highly unlikely it's just them. It's almost certainly all of them that are doing this to some degree, some worse than others, sure, but they're all going to have these problems, and it's how they deal with them that's the important thing. And right now, Ubisoft are not dealing with it. That's what you can get out of this report. So speedrunners protest leave biggest leaderboard site as it gets flooded with abusive comments. So again, this is kind of a bit wordy, but the real issue is the site Speedrun, which hosts a leaderboard and a bunch of video of various speedruns and stuff like that, recently added a commenting feature and then decided not to add any moderation whatsoever. It's like, what are you doing in the year of our Lord? To have a commenting feature and then not have some kind of moderation to back it up could not possibly be any stupider. But users have been spammed with vulgar comments and inappropriate images. Worse, those plagued by this problem can't moderate the garbage. As a result, some speedrunners and moderators on the site went on strike. Apologies if you did see that image. Yeah, there's some examples up on Twitter and that are embedded in this article that I don't want to show, but they're there if you want to look at them and see it yourself. Although the site's update appears to have been well-intentioned, as in trying to foster like a community on the site, speedrunners and moderators didn't initially have control over the comments on their own videos. Yeah, people could post whatever they want and there's nothing you could do about it. Although they could delete comments and ban users, offensive comments weren't deleted automatically, so they had to go through like a triage process, and then they'd have to run. You run a batch job on the server to clean up these kind of things. They're not done immediately, which would suggest they need more money, or probably shouldn't have implemented it in the first place. But anyway, that implementation allowed for bad faith users to create new accounts and spam the same comments at the click of a button. So where have we heard this problem before? Twitch is where we've heard this problem before. Anyway, to make matters worse, comments apparently didn't initially have a cooldown and allowed for image embedding. You idiots. Anyway, there's some talk here about specific speedrunners taking their videos down, or taking them down until such time that they're given moderation practices, or the whole feature is just fucking pulled and redone. The lack of content moderation tools is truly an error I would expect from a 2000s internet forum creator, not something happening in this day and age. The website owners should be embarrassed about that. Yes, they should. Things got bad enough that in an effort to preserve runs outside of the website, speedrunners within the Kingdom Hearts, Doom and Follow communities started exporting their data from the site in an effort to leave the platform entirely. So good job! You've actually completely alienated the whole reason people come to the website. Good job, idiots. This is a screenshot of their purported bug fixing. I would take issue with them calling them bugs. They're not bugs. These are features that should have been in before you fucking published the changes, but there you go. So be able to disable comments and hide stuff and, the fucking basic shit. It plans on incrementally releasing bug fixes to its moderation process, but again, I would say these aren't bugs. These are full-on features that are just not there that should be. While he agrees that the changes pushed from the site are good, Liquid Iffy said it now places way too much pressure on an individual runner to moderate their own runs. So again, where have we seen this before? With the moderation being pushed to the actual user instead of the host. It's Twitch again. Just so we're clear, it's Twitch. It's having it. So yeah, basically a bunch of speedrunners have left the site that because they added a feature that was not fully thought out, or not even half thought out, even a quarter thought out, that they would thought, hey, maybe we'll do some moderation. How about that? Maybe we'll just give them some tools instead of stupidity that they've shown here. And as a result, they've lost their content creators. So it wouldn't surprise me if that website either dies very quickly or they push out their bug fixes very fast, one or the other. Epic Games faces staff uproar over ending popular time off policy. So here's an issue that Epic Games had a policy during the pandemic that people could take every other Friday off. So effectively you had a 5-day week, then a 4-day week, then a 5-day week, then a 4-day week, and so on. But they've decided, no, not anymore. Arbitrarily. We're not going to do that anymore. For some people who weren't able to take those days off, for whatever reason, crunch, probably, mismanagement is another way of saying that, the alternate days off sometimes made up for overtime hours on other days. So you're doing 10-hour days instead. So you take the other day off, and now they're just saying, no, you're coming in that day too. So, fuck you, basically. Right now, we are seeing lots of Fridays off for deep work and lots of people who must work Fridays anyway. This meant that many people were not benefiting from this policy equally. So because not everyone is benefiting, we're just going to scrap it entirely. Not, we'll try to make it so that these people can also benefit. No. We're just gonna get rid of it. Replacing alternating Fridays off with a new policy of no work meetings on any Friday. That is not the same thing. All that is more work. At least the meetings are somewhat a break from the work, but no. Now it's just full-on work on a Friday instead. according to a survey conducted, the existing alternating Fridays off policy had over 90% approval. Yeah, big fucking shock on that, with nearly the same percentage of staff wanting to keep the policy going forward. So even though not everyone could avail of it, it still had 90% approval, which would suggest that the people who couldn't avail of it did not begrudge the people who did. So this is an interesting paragraph added in here by Ethan Gach again, which kind of highlights the whole issue, really, and why this is bullshit. While many developers have had to delay their games over the past 2 years, Bloomberg reports that one Epic employee criticized the company's decision in light of the fact that Fortnite has continued to deliver updates twice a month, meaning this alternating Friday off thing has not impacted their ability to produce or update and so on. And then earlier this year, Epic CEO Tim Sweeney testified during its trial with Apple that the company made $5.1 billion in gross revenue last year, i.e. during the pandemic. 5.1 billion in gross revenue. Maybe you can give them the every other Friday off, yeah? Maybe. Dickheads. It's also highlighted here that there is a growing trend in the developer industry to push for 4-day weeks. There have been a couple of stories now coming out that different developing houses are doing it. Anyway, Konami delays eFootball's first update to ensure the experience actually works. So, the 0.9.1, so it's not even 1.0. The game isn't even actually finished, and they're still fucking putting it out. But anyway, so this article is just, yeah, the game is shit right now, and we need to actually focus on making it not shit before we deliver all that stuff we said we'd deliver. And what I'm highlighting here is not necessarily the failure of eFootball. What I'm highlighting here is the failure of minimum viable product games coming out and then trying to add all the stuff that should have been there at launch later. So you can look at Marvel's Avengers, you can look at Anthem, you can look at eFootball. They all have the same problem, and it's that they shipped a very bare bones game. And not only that, the game didn't really work that well. And they had a big roadmap for, here's all the shit that's going to come out, and it's going to be like cool updates and stuff you're going to want that should have been in the fucking base game before you launched it, but okay. And then they don't do that. They don't put out any of those updates. They don't actually adhere to their roadmap because bugs. Because they didn't actually release a functioning product in the first place. So now they have to push back on that roadmap. So the roadmap means nothing. They're not beholden to it. There's no legal requirement for them to even ever deliver on anything in the roadmap. It's just, I just wanted to highlight that, like, any game that ships like that as a minimum viable product bullshit thing, where they put out the bare bones and then everything will follow afterwards, is just, no, wait. Put out the full thing properly instead of this roadmap shit, because they don't stick to it. The very few, I can't think of a game that has actually stuck to its roadmap in the very first time. Like, stuff always gets pushed back. Even those episodic games that were like, we'll release a new chapter every month. No, they fucking don't. They release a new chapter every 3 months, maybe. Like, it's just a very shitty business practice, and it's just becoming more common, and there's going to be a big backlash about it, assuming there isn't one already. Okay, now these last two kind of fit into dumb stuff, and they kind of fit into industry bullshit, so I kind of put them in between, I guess. Although technically they're in industry bullshit. Anyway, a patented PlayStation feature allows players to pay to kick others from games. Now, this is slightly misleading and debatably kind of misinformation. It's not players who pay to kick others from games, it's spectators specifically. Like, the players themselves don't do it. So this is a patent that Sony have filed, which basically says spectators vote to bench players in a video game, and they have been awarded this patent for some bullshit reason. So the idea is you're watching a competitive game, and if there's a critical mass of people who vote to kick or
ban a player or bench a player, I believe is how it's determined in the patent, which would suggest they have the option to come back in, but whatever. If there's a critical mass of people, so like 60%, that player is kicked. And how you can't see that this will be used for harassment and malicious intention, I don't know. Like, this is quite blatantly a bad idea. There's also, as pointed out in the headline, you can also just straight up pay for them to be kicked, and that doesn't appear to have an actual critical mass required for it. That appears to just straight up be, I'm going to pay money to get this player out of the game. In a game I'm not even playing in, I'm spectating, I'm still going to just pay for them to go away. Again, how you can't see this just being used for harassment. Like, vast majority of games already have this option. Like, the game itself, internal, like away from Twitch or YouTube or wherever this patent would be used. PlayStation's own fucking streaming service, if they're gonna go that way. Most games already have a kick option. Like, it's already there and is already used for like harassment and shit as well. So one way to look at this is it's a patent. Patents don't necessarily mean that they'll be used. There are plenty of patents that have come up and been shown off in these like news articles as being like shitty ideas or good ideas. Some of them have been interesting ideas. And they never get used. They're just there. They're just an idea somebody came up with and they got the patent in because patent law is weird, particularly around software. So having the patent means you can also use it as a protection in case somebody else implements it. And it's like, I can't think of there's a term for it, but I forget what it is, but it's like white hatting software patents, and basically you basically patent something that you know would be shit. That would be a terrible idea, like a bad business practice or really unethical or something like that. And you patent that, you get the patent for it, and then if anyone ever tries to implement a system like it, you go, I have the patent, stop. You never implemented it so that nobody can use it. No, it's that kind of thing. Do Sony strike you as that kind of company? No, but they also don't own any kind of platform where they could actually use this feature either. It's kind of odd that they were given the patent in the first place, because they don't own a video game streaming, a spectatory one. They own a PlayStation Now, which is actually a video game streaming server. What I mean is they don't own a wait, they do. Just gonna say they don't, but they actually do. No, they don't. Like, the broadcasting stuff from PlayStation goes to Twitch or YouTube. You can't actually view it, or you can't comment in it anyway, directly on PlayStation. So, yeah. It's kind of weird they were even granted the patent in the first place, because they have no possible way of using it. There you go. And the last one, Dead by Daylight fans unhappy Hellraiser model is an NFT. So, there's a lot of bullshit going on here. Basic thing is, the developers of Dead by Daylight, there is a Hellraiser chapter either out or on its way, I'm not sure, I don't follow the game. And the character Pinhead, the model has been lifted out and is being sold by a separate company as an NFT. Now, whatever you want to say about NFTs in general, and I personally believe they're a massive scam, because you're not buying the model, you're buying a key that says you bought the model. Buying a receipt to it, you know, it's kind of dumb. But anyway, it's not being directly sold by Behavior, it's being directly sold by somebody else. But the issue here is that they facilitated it, and that's the heart of this article, and what the players have an issue with is that they're trying to say that you know, absolutely zero blockchain exists in Dead by Daylight, nor will it ever. Behavior Interactive does not sell NFTs, so they're trying to stay away from that end of thing. But then, as is clearly demonstrated in the replies, they wouldn't have this model if you didn't give it to them. And no, you mightn't be directly selling the thing, but you're facilitating it, and that's kind of the issue they have with it. But the background to this is that I don't think it's been laid out in too many articles about it, because most of the articles are just focusing on the backlash. But the real issue is that the original creator of Hellraiser and Pinhead, Clive Barker, recently reacquired the licensing rights
to the character and to the series, but he doesn't regain them until the beginning of next year. So the company that's currently licensing out, they still own the licensing rights up until December 31st, 2021, and this kind of thing, this NFT collection shit, is seen as basically them trying to like milk as much money as they can get out of it before they lose the rights. And it's entirely possible that Behavior Interactive just have no say in this whatsoever. Like, it's probably somewhere in the licensing deal that, yeah, they get to do this. They own the model, or you know, they own the rig or whatever for the character, because it's their character kind of thing. So I would imagine they don't have a say in this, is what's happening. But again, that's not very clear. Like, not many people know that. So it's easier to just, you know, attack the developer instead. Which, yeah, like, they're not completely innocent in this. Like, they did like develop it, they did go into the licensing agreement. It was probably written somewhere in the licensing agreement, and they still agreed to it. So, you know, they're not completely absolved of it, but I wouldn't imagine it's entirely their fault. Okay, last thing, so some dumb stuff. So last week, the DBrand are back in the dumb stuff again. Last week we had them saying, hey Sony, sue us about our faceplates. We dare you. And then Sony did. And they took down this stuff. But they're back now, and apparently they've worked out a design that isn't completely copied from the PS5. So it's missing. If you own a PS5 yourself, you can zoom in on the faceplates. It is actually textured with the face buttons of the PlayStation, and the old DBrand faceplates also had that, but they were a tiny bit different so that they weren't like identical, but apparently it wasn't good enough. Or more specifically, I think they just didn't have enough money to fight Sony's cease and desist, which is probably more accurate. But anyway, they've changed it now. It doesn't have that texturing pattern, and now it has this horrible fan looking thing. I say fan, it's not a fan, it's just an open port on the side of your PlayStation, so enjoy even more dust, basically. And then they're trying to say that that actually looks nice. Fuck, it doesn't, it's disgusting. But anyway, yeah, they've come back to more or less say the same thing. Try and sue us again. At which point, like, guys, they have so much money. Like, even if they had no merit whatsoever in their lawsuit, you can't fight them. That's how the fucking legal system works. They have too much money. You cannot fight them back. Why are you doing this to yourselves? And I get this is their marketing thing. They're combative and needlessly shitholy. But it doesn't make me want to buy their product. Let's put it that way. And then last thing, Doom is playable on Twitter. So can it run Doom? Or Doom runs on everything. Continues. Like, we've gone from the PC to various consoles to photocopiers to Game Boys to like the printer LED screen to a bunch of other shit that somehow runs Doom, and now Twitter does. So this is kind of if you're familiar with the Twitch Plays setup, which is the chat puts in like what to do next kind of thing, and there's like a bot that will interpret those commands and just put them into the game, and chaos, more or less. It's kind of the same thing here. You just reply to this tweet to Doom thing with like different commands, and they will play the game with those commands. And it looks kind of complicated, but it's actually not that bad. Knowing that having a cheat sheet beside you is kind of the deal. And you put in what you want to do for X number of frames. So I want to, like, there's some examples there, like do nothing for a second and then toggle the map for another second. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do. And the bot will then throw back the last 10 seconds of gameplay. So there's like examples here of what happens. Like, people are putting in stuff and commands to see what happens. And it's like, in general, it's just nonsense. Because you can't see the fucking screen, but I don't know, it's kind of funny. But there's some really good stuff happening here, because there's like someone who did a speed run of the fucking first level and did it in like 11 seconds through Twitter. which is so fucking stupid. Like I do this, and then I move, and then I turn. And they're just putting in like angles and degrees and shit for how they turn. It's not like it has to be very specific what they're doing here. This is why it's so crazy. And you can play it yourself if you want. Go to Tweet to Doom. Their pinned tweet explains how everything works, and you can try it out yourselves. Anyway, that was the news from the 18th to the 24th of October 2021. Let me know what you thought. Again, nothing huge. No major news really. There's a state of play from Sony next week, so there might be something interesting there, although from the looks of it, it probably won't be that interesting. It looks very short and there's nothing about any of their first party stuff. So, new releases. House of Ashes, I imagine, will kind of be much like their latest entries, like Little Hope and Man of Medan. It might be fun, it might not. They're kind of hit and miss, to be honest. And Gloomhaven, if I ever get a chance to actually play it, it looks kind of hard, which I don't know how to feel about it, because I do like a challenge in like D&D games, but I also want to win. There's that into things. Anyway, elsewhere on the channel, I have started the Observer System Redux Let's Play, so we're about halfway-ish, a little earlier than halfway through the game now. So part 4 should be out at this point, and part 5 tomorrow. We'll be continuing on with that. I will probably have to speed up the releases for that, because I do kind of want to get it out before Halloween. We'll also be looking at Call of the Sea, so we'll be doing a one-shot Foley plays Call of the Sea for a bit. We'll be looking at that, and we'll also be looking at Resident Evil Village at some point. May or may not be this week, it might be the week after. Okay, you can check that out. Resident Evil Village is the last game I need to get footage for and actually play through a bit, so I can actually talk about it for the Games of May video. So I'm hopeful I'll get that out pretty soon. I already have Mass Effect. As I said, Call of the Sea was another game, and there's another game called Cozy Grove, which I do need to get footage for, but I have played through enough of it to kind of get an idea of what the game's about. Again, I am kind of speeding through these games because it's the end of October and I'm still doing the May video, so I'm trying to get through them. It's unlikely I'll get them all done by the end of the year, but I'm hoping there won't be too many to actually get through before I do. Anyway, let me know what you thought of today's video or any video that's on the channel, and you can always find me on Twitter if you so choose. I'm there somewhere. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.